Hey everybody, thanks for listening. And today, my name is Brandon, and today we're going to do a little bit of a history lesson. Now, today we're going to be learning about pocket watches. All right, you've seen these before. They've been in movies. You've been seeing people getting hypnotized with them. You've seen people wear them on like the Great Gatsby. It comes out in there. It comes out in what's that TV show? TV show called Peaky Blinders or something like that. It's on Netflix. It's a really good show. I can't remember what it's called though. But I want to kind of set back into the history of where the pocket watch came from. Now, pocket watches were invented back in the 1500s by a man named Peter Heidlen. He was a German inventor. He was in Nuremberg. Now the reason I was telling you where he was and where it became is a reason behind it, and it's because later on in the early years they called it the Nuremberg egg. Now it looked really funny looking. It was a big old bulky thing that was really unpleasant to wear. It wasn't comfortable at all to have it on you, and not only that, it was very inaccurate with the time. The the hands, as you know, a lot of clocks, uh, uh, a lot of clocks you see, they have a big hand and a short hand, and then they also have the second, thin hand that clicks all the way around. Back then, it didn't have that. It only had the hour hand. It was a very inaccurate reading. Now, around the 17th century, they kind of started making it a little bit better. They made it more of a pocket sized item. As, pocket watch. They made it for an actual pocket size instead of that big old bulky thing. And then they also added the hour hand onto it, or the minute hand onto it. So you had the minute hand and you had an hour hand, added around the 17th century. The Nuremberg egg was not popular back in the time. It took a little while for it to actually set hold and to getting into the hands of everyday life. Now, whenever it came around into the late 17th century into 18th and 19th century, it became a very demanding item to have. Everybody wanted one. Basically, everybody almost had one. The most commonly used for this item was on the railroad when it became called a railroad watch. Now, the railroad watch was used for the conductors, and it was used as a tool, as an everyday tool that they had to have for the railroad. Now, not only that, but listen to this. Whenever they started using these on the railroad, they had to go through a harsh inspection process before you could use it on a daily. You had to do this inspection every single day. And the reason for that is because each conductor with each train had to be synchronized together. This way, they was helping to prevent the railroads to be in collisions, and then they also made sure that they were where they were supposed to be on time. It became a very popular item around the early 18th century and on into the 19th century. Now, whenever we get into the 20th century, pocket watches started coming into more of a wristwatch. That started around the like Switzerland and stuff like that. Whenever it started becoming into this wristwatch, everybody wanted one of those too because it was so convenient just having it on your wrist and looking at it instead of like today, like we have smart watches, digital watches, etc., etc. And everything's digital today. We don't even use the type of clock that they used on these watches, which is called analog clocks. Now, on our clocks, Not anymore since they're passing that bill, but before this bill was passed with daylight saving time, you had to go on this clock and you had to wind it back an hour or move it forward an hour, for spring forward or fall back. If you know what that means, then it's either you grew up around a lot of old people or just old. If you don't know what that means, it was a very helpful saying, as into if we're losing an hour or adding an hour. So in the fall, we fall backwards, so we go back an hour. So we gained another hour of sleep. And the spring forward, we lost an hour of sleep. But with the back into the pocket watches, because I'll chase down rabbit holes whenever it comes into a history lesson. But the pocket watches started becoming more than just using it for a tools, became a piece of like your everyday clothing, especially back in between early 1900s all the way up into the 1950s, 1960s. If you watch an old movie, like we talked about before, if you watch an old movie with mafia gangsters in it, and they're wearing those nice fancy suits, you'll see a pocket watch on one of them. I promise you. I promise you will. But that is a small piece. That's just a small piece of a pocket watch history.